Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling one of the most notoriously intimidating yet incredibly rewarding challenges in the entire tech industry, the product management and product design interview. If you've ever stared blankly at a whiteboard while an interviewer casually asks you to, design a better way to find a roommate, well, you know exactly the kind of pressure we're talking about. It really all boils down to this one massive question. How do you actually ace an open-ended product design interview? It is so incredibly easy to freeze up. Without a rock-solid system, these vague, wide-open prompts can completely derail even the most experienced candidates. You might have amazing ideas, but if you scatter them everywhere, the interviewer just loses the thread. Simply put, you need a system. Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to break down a master framework today. It's a beautifully structured 9-step end-to-end flow. It literally takes you from a totally ambiguous prompt all the way through to a concrete launch plan, making absolutely sure you don't miss a single beat along the way. To keep things organized, here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll cover the PM interview playbook. Then, we'll walk through phase 1, the problem, phase 2, the solution, and phase 3, the reality check. And we'll wrap it all up with some golden rules for success. All right, part 1, the PM interview playbook and structuring your thoughts. Look, before you even think about picking up a marker, before you write a single thing on the whiteboard or open your mouth to pitch an idea, you have to adopt this core mantra. Think out loud, structure first, then dive deep. Interviewers aren't just looking for some magical, brilliant idea pulled out of thin air. They're actually testing your mental operating system. They want structured, transparent thinking. They want to see exactly how you navigate ambiguity. Moving right along to phase 1, the problem. The absolute most fatal flaw candidates make in product interviews is jumping straight into solutions. You literally cannot solve a problem you haven't defined. Instead, you've got to start by clarifying the scope. Ask about the goals, the primary users, any technical or business constraints. Next up is user segmentation. This is where you identify different user types based on their behaviors. And crucially, you pick just one primary segment to focus on. Once you've got that target user, then you dive into prioritizing their specific pain points. But you can't just guess which pain point is the worst, right? You have to ruthlessly evaluate them. Ask yourself, what's the severity? Like, how bad is this pain really? What's the frequency? How often does it actually happen? Then there's importance. What's the impact on the overall goal? And finally, evidence. Do you have data, research, or even logical workarounds to back this up? By filtering the pain points through these exact criteria, you can confidently prioritize the top 1 to 3 issues. And this brilliantly illustrates a core rule of this entire framework. Every single phase has to end with a concrete deliverable. The output of phase 1 isn't just some vague conversation. It's a firmly stated list of top prioritized problems, along with your rationale for exactly why you chose them. This perfectly anchors your problem definition before you're even allowed to move on. Okay, phase 2, the solution, moving from the problem to the actual fix. Now that we know exactly who we're building for and what specific pain we're curing, we shift into the solution space. You'll start with solution ideation, generating at least 3 distinct broad directions across different angles. Think product, tech, or the business ecosystem. Then, you prioritize and make smart trade-offs to select the absolute best one. Finally, you map out the MVP and the user journey, defining those core triggers, steps, and key interactions. Let's pause for a second on the MVP. Your minimum viable product is your single chosen solution. But here's the kicker. You must explicitly define what you are not doing. Communicating what gets left on the cutting room floor, that shows immense focus and product maturity. So how exactly did we pick that winning MVP back in the ideation phase? By evaluating our brainstormed solutions against some really strict criteria. You've got to weigh the impact on both the user and the business against the effort, meaning time, cost, and complexity. You also have to factor in your confidence level, the strategic fit, and the real-world risks involved, whether those are tech limitations, policy issues, or just the danger of losing user trust. And just like the previous phase, phase 2 absolutely demands an output. By the end of this mapping, you need to hand the interviewer a definitive, clear MVP scope and a mapped end-to-end user flow. At this point, you've taken a giant, ambiguous prompt and rustled it into a specific, tangible product concept. Which brings us to phase 3, the reality check, stepping into the real world. So, you've got this brilliant solution and a clear user journey mapped out. Awesome! But now you have to bring it back down to earth. The real world is messy, it's full of data gaps, risks, and execution challenges. First, you'll define your metrics and guardrails to actually measure success. Next, you have to identify major risks, evaluate where AI or data can help, assess data availability, and honestly, create a fallback plan if things go completely sideways. Finally, you create a launch and learn plan to figure out how you'll roll this out and iterate based on real data. When defining success, you absolutely need a North Star metric for your long-term goal. But you can't stop there. You also need input metrics, which act as proxies, and, crucially, you need guardrail metrics. Guardrail metrics are there specifically to make sure your shiny new product doesn't accidentally wreck other parts of the business or ruin the user experience. The final output for Phase 3, and really the grand finale of your primary whiteboarding session, is a concrete go-to-market and iteration plan. This proves to your interviewer that you don't just invent fun ideas in a vacuum. It shows you actually know how to launch, test, measure, and scale a product in a live market to drive real, tangible impact over time. Finally, Section 5, the Golden Rules and Operating Principles. So the crucial point running quietly in the background of all 9 steps is this: data beats opinions, hands down. Throughout the interview, you are going to make assumptions. That's totally expected. But the golden rule is that you must constantly validate those assumptions. You need to lean heavily on data over mere opinion whenever possible. Or at the very least, state exactly what data you would look for if you had access to it. Keep in mind, interviewers are secretly grading you on a few core behaviors here. You must structure your answers and talk in frameworks. You need to be fiercely user-obsessed, keeping them at the dead center of every decision. You have to prioritize ruthlessly and make your trade-offs explicit. And please, use simple, clear language. Buzzwords are absolutely not going to save a poorly structured answer. I love this quote. It's such an empowering mantra to keep in your back pocket. Start broad, then narrow. Dive deep, make smart trade-offs, drive impact. And remember, the ultimate relief here: you are not expected to be perfect. Let me say that one more time. You are not expected to be perfect. The interviewer just wants to see structured thinking and immense user focus. Okay, let's do a super quick rapid-fire recap to lock this in. 1. Clarify the goal. 2. Segment your users. 3. Prioritize their problems. 4. Ideate solutions. 5. Choose the best one. 6. Map out the MVP. 7. Define your metrics. 8. Identify risks. And 9. Prep that launch plan. You've not got the definitive blueprint for the PM interview. It's all right there. But here is the real challenge I want to leave you with. Interviewers absolutely love to throw curveballs. They might change a constraint halfway through or challenge your core assumption right when you're getting comfortable. You have the framework now. So in the heat of the moment, when the pressure is on, how will you adapt it?